Robot Building Supplies, helping you get the right products for the job at a better price. Master Builders Victoria. Vaccinations play a big role in getting Victorian tradies back to work.
Drive with Bob Murphy and Auntie Ma.
It's fair to say we didn't put an awful lot of thought into the name of this show. Drive, it's just what it is. Drive with Bob and Andy. Not an awful
Not
amount
even alphabetically sound.
Nah, we just sort of went with the absolute obvious.
Worked for Hamish and Andy.
True. Well, over on SEN Track, there's a show that you should listen to. Monday to Thursday, 8 a.m. on SEN Track. Even less thought's been put into the name of that show. The bloke who hosted is Andrew Bensley. You know what they call the show? Bensley. Come on, SEN Track. Come on.
I'm still annoyed our show wasn't called Two Left Nuts.
That would have been magnificent. We should have imagine. Well, would Buck Shelford have come on if our show was called? Hey, listen, there's a couple of blokes in Australia who've got a show called Two Left Nuts. They'd like you to come on, Buck. Would he have thought we were taking the?
He would have thought this is my church. This is where I belong.
Andrew Bensley is the man who hosts Bensley Monday to Thursday from 8 a.m. on SEN Track. A man who knows form, who studies it, who talks to people who've got all the key runners in the big races that are coming. They're already here, obviously, but the big cups and the Cox Plate are such a focal point of the Australian sporting landscape, and they're starting to take shape. And I was keen to get Andrew on today just to give us a steer if he liked a couple or didn't from the weekend, with the big lead-up races now well and truly on. For those who like a little bit of a dabble in futures, he might be able to steer us in the right direction. Hey, Andrew, thanks for joining us on the show, mate. Really appreciate it.
It'd be right to say, Andy and Bob, that Hutchie took more time into naming the show than doing my original deal that he did with me. It didn't muck around. He said, "We're just calling it Bensley," and that'll do it.
That'll do. Yeah. When he's on a mission, Andrew, he gets
go with it.
He gets exactly right. So, look, start with the Cups. Start with the Caulfield and Melbourne Cups for us. Incentivise is now into extremely short price favourite for the Caulfield Cup and a clear outright favourite for the Melbourne Cup. What you saw from that performance on the weekend, and knowing what you know about those around it, does it deserve to hold that sort of favouritism?
I think it should be favourite, but I think the market will tighten up as we get closer to it, Andy. I just think that many of us, including myself, maybe underestimated the horse. We saw what it was doing in Brisbane, but could it come down here and do it in Melbourne? Now it's done it twice. So you've got to be realistic that he's a very, very good horse. But I think there'll be horses that are well weighted in the race, like a Sydney horse called Montefilia, who won the Metrop up there in Sydney on the weekend. Got a kilo penalty today, only carries 52, proven at this sort of 2,400 metres, looks like a genuine stayer. Even a horse like, for mine, non-conformist for Graham Begg. He won his last start. He'll run again on the weekend and then go into the Caulfield Cup. Graham Begg has had one target in mind, and that is to win the Caulfield Cup. And the one that I'm certainly not dropping off, Andy, from a Caulfield Cup point of view, and indeed both cups, is Explosive Jack.
Yes.
Trained by Kieran Maher and David Eustace, and it was just doing enough at the end of the Turnbull on Saturday to say that this horse is on target to be running well once we get to 2,000 metres and beyond.
Have you? Some people were starting to lose a bit of faith in his 3-year-old years. In his 3-year-old year, a lot of people were excited about what young Werther might have been able to do, and a few were starting to wonder whether the horse might have been a boom juvenile and was never going to bring that, to the big races once it fully matured. That run on the weekend was full of promise.
Yeah, look, it did remind us that he's always had the talent, and again, he's one that has or is nicely weighted on paper as it sits right now, and having the Danny O'Brien polish of, making these horses time. Danny's got his Flemington stable, but he's got his Promedy down on Barwon Heads, and he uses the beach, and he just brings these horses along beautifully. We know what he did with Russian Camelot in peaking him on the right day. So he just reminded us so what I'm saying, Andy and Bob, is that I reckon the market tightens a bit. I'm not saying Incentivise will stay favourite in the Caulfield Cup, but I reckon it'll move a bit closer between the first and the next group of 2 or 3.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that as it unfolds. Explain to me, I had a few mates of mine and blokes that you know who were very, very keen on Very Elegant's capacity to continue to take all before her and maybe even win a Melbourne Cup this year, such as the changing nature of the race without the strength of internationals coming out here this year. Based on what you saw on I don't know whether there's been any official word out of the camp, but based on what you saw on the weekend, you shelve those plans, don't you?
Yeah, look, it'll be interesting. Obviously, Chris Waller, you can never underestimate. We know how good she is. She had a first couple of runs in Sydney on at least one on rain-affected track. So whether the edge was taken off her, who knows? But Chris Waller and the stewards have been out earlier today, Andy and Bob, and said we've done examinations and tests, and there's nothing. Very Elegant's gone down to stay on the Mornington Peninsula. She'll do a bit of beach work the next 2 or 3 mornings, and then she'll come back into Flemington to be prepared for. Look, I'm not brave enough to say it's definitely Cox Plate. Does Chris Waller think about running the horse the week before the Cox Plate? I guess we'll wait and see what Chris decides. But she's too good a horse for us to drop off, Andy, off one run. I mean, they're horses, they're individuals. You and I both get up in the mornings and have cranky days, and maybe Very Elegant just wasn't on the job as we saw from her very best on Saturday.
Yeah, Bob had a couple of shockers in his 312, whatever it was. Not many. Had a couple of shockers. His bad one was they were very bad. His bad ones though,
memorably bad,
noticeably bad.
Jeez, he's having a crack at you, Bob. No wonder you're leaving. And I know it's like the breakfast shift, this one, where you get interviewed by Gary and Tim, and there's only one person that asks the question. Where are you gone, Bob? Are you still there?
Well, Andrew, I can't get a word in because Andy here, he likes to sort of soak up all the on-air time as per his contract. But I was wondering, so I look at jockeys. When I look at the Spring Carnival, I look at the jockeys. If you had to have a jockey to ride for your life, who would you pick at the moment?
Oh, I like it.
Right now, here and now, a Melbourne jockey, Damien Oliver.
Still?
Oh,
yeah, no doubt. He's a jockey that is. You can hear him screaming. When you watch the races with no crowd, you hear one jockey yelling sort of loud and clear when he's coming with a run. He's getting every little centimetre out. He was a bit nervous when we learnt that it was him when we started to hear this noise, but Ollie gives it everything. And they can't win every race that they ride in, but I reckon he's riding extremely well. And just reminding these young jocks coming through that, hey, I'm still here and I'm willing to do everything to win a big race.
And what about if you're a part owner of a very talented horse? Which trainer do you think is at the peak of their powers at the moment?
I've got to interview these guys, Bob. Can I say about 10 of them?
Yeah.
No, I think that Kieran Maher, the obvious, Kieran Maher is one that we've watched him grow from a stable at Warrnambool where he trained jumpers. But he had the desire even then that he wanted to create what he's done right now. And for the quality of horse that he has, and he's bought a horse like last year he bought, the Connections bought Sir Dragonet to win the Cox Plate. They bought a horse called Gold Trip this year that's got similar form lines, hasn't got a lot of press because we're all talking about the Caulfield Cup at this stage. But I think that Kieran will be very much to the fore. And that's why, Bob, it's like watching coaches prepare teams to make the finals and then to go on and win the big one. Trainers are building momentum with horses for their first 2 or 3 runs of a spring. And then when we get to Caulfield this week, that's when we really see these horses perform at their very best.
A lot of good horsemen, lot of good horsemen in that family, no doubt about that. So just before we let you go, you mentioned Gold Trip, variously on the sort of second, third, or fourth line of betting for the Cox Plate. If you were framing a market, I don't know whether you play around with this sort of stuff, but would you have Zaki odds-on favourite to win the Cox Plate?
No, not. Look, it's a really good horse, but again, it's a Cox Plate. I mean, look, it's going to run this week at Caulfield, and if it wins the Might and Power Stakes again, well, then it's going to be even shorter. I just think that we've got to be very wary. We've got 2 international horses that have come here, Joseph O'Brien, State of Rest, and Gold Trip for Andrew Balding. These are 2 high-quality horses. And then we always get a 3-year-old that'll come out of the Caulfield Guineas. Might be a Animo, it might be a Taurus, but there will be one or two that will come out. For mine, you wouldn't be backing at $1.80 at this stage, Bob.
No.
And Tim.
No.
Bob and Andy, sorry.
Andrew, there's too many people who want your services, so no wonder you don't know who you're talking to half the time. Hey, thanks for joining us. If you want to know more, if you want to keep your finger on the pulse, 8 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, SEN Track. Bensley's the name of the show. Andrew Bensley's the man who's talking to all the key people that you need to know. He pretends he's mates with all of them because he can't separate one from the other. That's the key to this sort of stuff.
That is politics.
It's very clever.
We were talking about politics earlier.
Indeed. Andrew, thanks for your insights, mate. Appreciate it.
And I'm going to leave you with one, Andy.
Yep, go on.
I wouldn't be backing incentivised to win both cups. It's a gamble, the punting game, so it would be a gamble. I'm not sold on Peter Moody wanting to run in both cups at this stage. So I wouldn't be taking, if you take the double, the Caulfield and Melbourne Cup double, then it is a gamble because it's not guaranteed.
Okay. In 10 seconds, which one is he more likely to run in, do you think?
Definitely Caulfield Cup.
Okay,
That's
right.
incentivises next run for sure, but Melbourne Cup is still a query.
You're a good man. Thanks for your time, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Bob.
Andrew
Good on you,
Bensley
Andrew.
joining us. Good questions from you. You're a bit reluctant to join in because it's not your sweet spot.
You don't allow enough space for me sometimes.
Keen to have a chat with a man who knows a bit about the caper. You know, other than your fine
Squeeze me out.
other than your fine self.
Hard enough when I was in the room.